Welcome to the Mobile Home Park Investor Network. My name is Andy Talone. I'm the Vice President of CCI Investments. We're a nationwide mobile home park consulting firm. And this is the nuts and bolts of mobile home park investing. This is an informational series intended to take you through the various steps from beginning to end in investing and being successful in the mobile home park business. We will take these in bite-sized segments, and each one will be in the order or the sequence that they would probably occur in nature. So this first installment is called Finding a Good Mobile Home Park, which is, of course, the first step in the process. Let's begin by clearing up something right now. We're in probably the hottest real estate market in history. Interest rates are at an all-time low, the money's flowing freely, everybody wants to get rich, everybody's suddenly an investor. And so every aspect of the real estate industry is on fire right now. Mobile home parks are no different. However, in one way, mobile home parks may even be getting more intense attention because they're, I don't want to say a new segment to real estate, they're not. They've been around for a long, long time, but they've just slipped into the mainstream 3, 4, 5 years ago. Most of the people that are looking for a mobile home park now weren't even thinking of parks, wouldn't have even considered owning one. And now they're scratching around looking for one for themselves to invest in. So we have a new awakening of the public awareness of mobile home parks in addition to this hot market we're in. So what I would suggest as an overall rule, one of the rules of success is to do what other people are not willing to do. Now, if you sing the mantra that I hear again and again in this business, I don't want any park-owned homes, no well and septic, I've got to be in a metro center of 100,000 or larger, well then you're looking for what everybody else in this industry is looking for also. And it's a crowded field. You'll probably end up in multiple offer situations, prices being bid up, everything being sold, because that's, again, you've got millions of people looking for that exact thing. Again, to be successful, you've got to be willing to do what others are not willing to do. So you have to look at the things, perhaps, at least look at the ones that are not being snapped up by mainstream buyers. Look at small towns. Look at park-owned homes. And we have an entire segment in this series about park-owned homes. So I won't get into it too deeply right now, but that's something well worth looking at. There's a lot of money in owning park-owned homes. Well and septic is another one. You have to broaden your horizons a little bit, or you're going to have a hard time finding a decent park, I can tell you that. I'd also like to touch on what we call the 11 cap myth. When you start looking at parks, particularly online, you're going to see people that are claiming this is a 10 cap, an 11 cap, a 12 cap, and you're going to get excited when you see it. And of course, maybe it's been on the market for 6 or 8 weeks, right, at 11 cap. So you have to ask yourself, why is it still here? Chances are there's something you just haven't seen yet that will tell you that's why it's still here. Perhaps the numbers are bogus. They're not entirely true or incomplete. It could be pro forma, meaning that 11 cap is what will happen after you fix the park and fill it up. They do that a lot. Sometimes you have an owner-operator who's running the park himself. He lives in the park. He's probably got his storage shed full of old used refrigerators and water heaters and toilets, and when something breaks, he'll spend a couple of hours looking for that plumbing fitting that he knows he has, so he doesn't have to spend any money on it. Well, when you buy that park, you won't be able to do that. You'll have to, unless you're willing to move to that park and move in and run it like he was, and you're probably not. In a case like that, you've got to add in for an on-site manager. Figure $1,000 to $1,500 a month. Off-site management, highly recommended. At least $500 a month. So now we're already at $2,000 a month. If his maintenance costs are freakishly low, you're going to have to add some in for that. So in this scenario, you could easily have to add an additional $30,000 to the expenses on that deal, which would drop the NOI by $30,000, which would drop the cap rate down below 11% or whatever it is they're advertising. The two main sources where most people today are looking for mobile home parks are loopnet.com and mobilehomeparkstore.com. LoopNet is a general commercial property site, so they don't have only mobile home parks. They have apartments and businesses and warehouses and everything, but they also have parks. Mobile Home Park Store is specialized in nothing but parks. Now, there's some confusion in the market. Some people regard these two websites as real estate MLSs. Now, I've been in real estate my whole adult life, and I've been members of many MLS associations, multiple listing service. If you sell houses, as a realtor, you're going to be on an MLS system. That's how they do business. Well, to join an MLS, you have to have a license as a realtor. You have to be a member of the board. You have to pay a bunch of dues. They make you go through a half a day or a one-day class, an orientation about the use and the rules and so forth of the MLS. And then you have to follow the rules. You sign a contract. Everything has to be accurate, has to be true, has to be timely. When you sell that house, you got to report it within 24 hours or they'll fine you. Now that's an MLS, and the result is you can count on the information on an MLS. I mean, it's reliable. I'm not saying anything bad about LoopNet or Mobile Home Park Store. I'm just trying to differentiate them from MLSs because these are advertising venues, and anybody who has the money to run an ad, whether they're a realtor or not, whether they own the place or not, maybe they're the owner's best friend, the guy who lives down the street just trying to help him out. Anybody can put an ad on LoopNet or Mobile Home Park Store and say pretty much anything they want. If they want to call it a 10 cap or a 20 cap, they can do that. No one's going to slap them on the hand or fine them or anything like that or take away their privileges. So it's important that you know that. You have to take this information with a grain of salt. If you're going to work LoopNet and Mobile Home Park Store looking for parks, again, you have to realize we're in a red-hot market. You have millions of eyeballs every day looking at these two sites looking for mobile home parks. So if you're going to do this, and it's a good source, it's crowded, it's tough to find good deals, but the first thing you need to do is get organized. You need to come up with a system because if you're going to work these two sites, you're going to be looking at a lot of properties all the time. You got to have a way to organize that information so you know what you've already seen, what you've already eliminated, what's new. You want to look at it every day if you can, first thing in the morning, and look for the stuff that just popped up. You know, I was looking on Mobile Home Park Store 3-4 years ago, and I happened to be the first one to see a beautiful little 62-space park near Mobile, Alabama. And we ended up buying that park. The lady who owned it was in Texas. She was not an agent. So that was a perfect scenario. And the only reason we got that deal was because I was the first guy who saw it. And I'd like to say I was disciplined enough to watch it every day. I wasn't. I just got lucky on that one. And there's an old saying, you know, the harder you work, the luckier you get, right? You know, this is a nationwide thing. And you'll go crazy chasing after mobile home parks if you don't limit yourself to an area that you like. A lot of people, they want to have a mobile home park in their own backyard. You know, I'm not advising against it. Hey, if you can find one in your own backyard and it makes sense, great. But chances are very slim that you will. It's tough enough finding a mobile home park in the entire country that will meet your criteria. When you narrow that down to one state, you're going to be looking at so few parks. It's just hard to find a good deal. So pick several locations for whatever reason is important to you. For us, it's all about money. We go to the places where you can make the most money. And in our opinion, and from our experience, that's the South and parts of the Midwest. And more on that later. But pick an area where you can focus and you can concentrate so that every day you can go to Kansas if that's where you want to be, or Tennessee, or Florida, and look every day at just those listings and become an expert on that area. That's another key to success, become an expert at what you're doing. So you're going to concentrate on Florida, you're going to concentrate on Tampa, then you become an expert on Tampa. You look in at everything you can think of and you start meeting and talking to people down there and making connections. Another important point that I can't stress enough is you have to be ready to move quickly. I can't tell you how many people I talk to in this business. They're looking for a mobile home park. They find one and they sit on their hands while they do all their due diligence. In certain markets, slow markets, you can get away with that. But in a market like this, by the time you figure out if you want to do something or not, there can already be another buyer in the wings that snap that deal out right out from under you. So when you're lucky enough to find a good park, you move on it quickly, on the best information you have available at the time. And then you build in enough time to conduct your due diligence so that you can sort all these things out during your due diligence investigation. So even if you're not sure if the numbers are verified or not, you're going to pick that up during your due diligence phase. Do not hold up. If you think you've got a good deal, you've got to lock that down with a written offer, get it tied up in escrow, and then you'll have the time to do all of your in-depth investigations. I'd like to talk about mailing lists. I get a lot of people that are looking for parks and they're so proud of themselves that they've got this mailing list, or they've got some computer program that they bought or they found or they even invented. I've heard people do that. I've got the best mailing list there is. Well, I've been around a long time. I've even spent a lot of money on mailing lists at one time or another, and I have not found the holy grail of mailing lists in this business. And that would be a list of mobile home park owners that included their names and their phone numbers. Now, most of them will have the owner entity, and other than ma and pa type operations, most mobile home parks are probably going to be owned in the name of an LLC or a corporation of some kind, and so there's another layer you have to go through to find the actual owner, the person you can talk to. And they almost never have a phone number. If you're lucky, you'll get an address, and often it's a P.O. box or it's an office address. So really hard to get good information that way. Now I'll tell you, probably one of the better lists that's available today, and it's absolutely free, is on mobilehomeparkstore.com. You go to the top of the page under resources, you click that, and then you go down to the lower left of the screen and it says 40,000 mobile home parks in the US listed. You click on that, it's separated by state and then broken down by city. And it's a pretty good list. They say 40,000, I think that's maybe a third as many as there actually are. There's probably over 100,000 mobile home parks in the country, no one knows for sure. So it's not a complete list by any means. And it's kind of a dated list, to be honest with you. I believe it hasn't been updated since they put it up maybe 10 years ago. So a lot of the phone numbers are no good. And of course you have to understand that a lot of mobile home parks today don't have landlines. Okay, so you don't have a real phone number. The park owner buys the on-site manager a cell phone. So a lot of these mobile home parks are run today off of cell phones and don't have an official landline phone number. So it's going to be really hard to find phone numbers on some of these parks. That manager leaves, maybe he takes the phone with him. They get a new phone now for the new manager, so hard to get phone numbers. And even if you do, when you call it, you're more than likely going to get the park manager, not the owner, unless the owner happens to run the park or he happens to be there that day, which is a fairly remote possibility, but it happens. But in general, you're going to get the manager, and he has no incentive to help you buy that park. He knows what he's got now with the owner that's there now. If you take it over, you might get rid of him and bring your brother-in-law in or something. So you're not going to get a lot of cooperation out of most managers. As a mobile home park owner myself, I've gotten many letters over the years from people that are working a mailing list, and my name came up on a mailing list, and I get letters of, oh, we're buying mobile home parks and this and that and the other thing. I'm in the business, so I keep them and I call them anyway, but most of the time I don't pay much attention to them. However, there was a twist that I ran into personally on one of the parks that I own personally in Sacramento, California. I lived in the Bay Area, which is about 2.5 hours from Sacramento. I was having new countertops, granite countertops installed in my house, and the whole place was opened up and there were workers coming in and out. And I saw a guy there that didn't look like he belonged. And he was out front of the house, and I asked him who he was, and he basically had found my name on a mailing list that I owned the Stillman Mobile Home Park, and came to my house to introduce himself and see if I'd be interested in selling the park. Well, lo and behold, I just put it on the market, and he ended up buying it. So he didn't find it out of the clear blue because I'd already put it on the market, but he didn't know that yet, and he got the jump on everybody else because it hadn't actually hit the internet yet. So that is another twist on an old theme. You can hop in the car. Remember, success is doing what other people are unwilling to do. It takes a lot of guts to go knock on somebody's door and ask them if they want to sell their park. And sometimes that might be the one thing that's going to get you the park that everybody else misses.